Hello Newsday Live. I'm Steve Boykinen. I'm here in beautiful Boulder Creek, California, where the flannel shirt is our state flag, the pit bull is our state bird, and cannabis is our state flower. I've never done a reaction video or anything like that, or a clip where I've been moved to do a show based on like an interview or something that I saw that somebody said. And I was going down to Santa Cruz today, and before I left YouTube, plugged in the speaker, all that shit, and I saw that Glenn Greenwald had an interview with Aaron Mate. And Aaron's got a new show on the Gray Zone Project. It's called Pushback. I would imagine that it is a little highbrow. I don't know exactly how I want to put that. Man, he does incredible work. He's a good journalist. He's got great guests. And Glenn Greenwald was on ostensibly to talk about what's really going on in Brazil. And he had an interview with former President Lula back in May. And then with him and his team at The Intercept have come out with a magnificent series of exposés and articles about the massive corruption circulating around Sergio Moreno, who is Bolsonaro's judge, defenseman, something like he's in a ministerial position now. He's a judge who was getting all of these corrupt Brazilian politicians and all of these corrupt CEOs, which rightfully they should have. But it turns out that Moreno is crooked as a dog's hind leg too. For this, Glenn Greenwald has been persecuted. They've gone after him. They've threatened his husband. They've gone after, threatened his mom. And I've seen a picture of Glenn Greenwald's mother. She looks like a very sweet woman. Like, I don't understand where that kind of shit comes from. But I'm gonna play the entire clip. Maybe I'll pause it in the middle of it. I'm gonna talk about it for a little bit. I don't know, but this is Glenn Greenwald. Towards the end of the interview, Aaron Mate sets up the question, but or throws him the question. But the setup for the question is that Lula and Doma, the two working party presidents that or workers party presidents that were in power prior to Bolsonaro, were pretty goddamn good for the elite of the country. They were in the same way that the rich got richer under Bill Clinton and under Barack Obama. They certainly got richer under Lula and Doma. So Aaron asked him this question, and unless I really want to pause it to touch on something, I am probably just going to let this play. But here we go.
What to you explains the hostility towards Lula and Dilma on the part of Brazilian and U.S. elites? From the U.S. perspective, I can see, this being a part of a overall plot to undermine, overthrow progressive governments in Latin America. And when you take away Brazil, the biggest country, arguably the most important country, it's easier to do that. But on the part of Brazilian elites, I mean, you pointed out that they did fine, especially under Lula, who made a number of compromises to appease them. So what do you think explains the hostility here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting and important for, what a Western audience to understand that both Lula and Dilma traveled a great distance ideologically and politically from their early days. So a lot of people assume the Workers' Party, because it's called the Workers' Party, because it was founded by Lula da Silva, who rose to prominence as a labor leader, who grew up in extreme poverty, didn't learn to read until he was 10, lost a finger in a factory where he was a laborer, And then Dilma Rousseff, who was an actual Marxist guerrilla, she took up arms against the military dictatorship and was imprisoned by the military dictatorship and tortured by the military dictatorship that President Bolsonaro has repeatedly praised. That there's a perception that this is somehow some kind of left-wing party opposed to capitalism. Lula ran 3 times as this leftist candidate and lost 3 times. And he realized that he was never going to win because Brazilian oligarchical institutions were too powerful and had too much sway over public opinion.
I would like to pay Glenn Greenwald $1 to have him say oligarchical institutions 5 times fast. Now, I wanna ask you if that kind of sounds like anyone that you know in American politics, or at least a trajectory that you might be familiar with in American politics, where someone comes out as this, or comes from labor, comes from the left wing, comes from an organizational or activist background, and makes their way into politics to basically join the neoliberal ranks. We'll let him continue.
Unless he appeased them that he was going to be more cooperative with the oligarchs. And in 2002, which is when he finally won on the 4th try, he selected as his vice president this center-right banker who was beloved by Globo and the industrial interest. And he wrote a very famous, what's called Letter to the Brazilian People, Carta ao Povo Brasileiro, that essentially promised that he was no longer the Lula of the past, that he had learned that he needs to fuel the machinery of capitalism, and only through Brazilian economic growth in a capitalist context can the Brazilian poor finally be assisted. And that was very much how he governed for 8 years. It's a very complicated discussion, because it is true that he pulled millions of people out of poverty using programs that were really innovative and that were able to pass, only because at the same time he was greasing the wheels of Brazilian capitalism. So in exchange for poverty programs that genuinely helped Brazilian poor, he also was ensuring that the Brazilian stock market, that inequality remained unchallenged. So he gave up radicalism in exchange for very incremental gains. And
I'm gonna stop it right there for a second. If you guys are following along with that, and I hope you are, and I hope you do go check out the entire interview, which I will link to probably 3 or 4 hours after the video post, because that seems to be about my fucking speed. Glenn Greenwald here is setting up what I think is almost allegorical in terms of what happens to truly progressive, truly left, or truly radical movements that then get feel like they need to their only recourse is a political solution, and they get into politics. They try and find a political solution to make these programs work, and they go ahead and put themselves in a position of government and immediately have to kiss the ring, have to bow and scrape to power, have to write a letter saying, I am nothing like I used to be, and I embrace capitalism now. And the fallout from that should be pretty obvious.
Dilma very much did the same thing. She was much more, by the time she was chosen by Lula to succeed her, much more of a kind of technocrat than she was an ideologue. She didn't agree to do all of the austerity measures that were demanded of her, but she agreed to do a lot of them. Both Lula and Dilma, were heavily criticized by environmentalists for helping to harm the Amazon through massive mining and dam projects for hydroelectric facilities, for example. The country's leading environmentalist, Marina Silva, who grew up in the Amazon, quit as Lula's environment minister in protest of his pro-industrial policy. So it's important not to think of the Workers' Party as this left-wing party. They're more like.
So before he gets into that, I want to draw attention to the fact that that there was ostensibly like a liberal or a head of the Workers' Party in charge of Brazil, and his environment minister resigns in protest over his acceptance and opening arms to fucking giant corporations to go rape, pillage, burn the Earth's lungs. 20% of the entire forest on the planet is contained within the Amazon. And it rose to the level of corruption that Brazil demanded in order. Yeah, if you, at the beginning of the video, Brooke, Glenn kind of breaks down the origins of Operation Car Wash, the institutional and generational corruption in Brazilian politics. It's a thing, and the fact that it's a thing is the problem, because the problem is you come into the political system with an activist mindset, and you immediately have to play an entirely different game, which is we do what the fucking deep state tells us.
The Democratic Party, they really became neoliberal. You could say they did it because they were forced to do it to get things done, as defenders of Lula and Dilma say, or you could say that they did it for their own power interest, as critics of on the left of the Workers' Party say, but they certainly did it. And that does lead to the question, why do the elites hate them so much, given how well the elites did under, especially Lula? And when I asked Lula that, his answer was that it's really cultural, that because under Lula, poor people started, for example, to be able to afford plane tickets. And so the bourgeoisie and the upper middle class of Brazil, the white upper middle class, had to go to the airport, and suddenly there were all of these previously invisible black people from favelas who for the first time had the money to buy air tickets, or who could go to the same malls, that it just became that this kind of cultural position of privilege that was being eroded, and that was what was being blamed on the Workers' Party, so that even though the elite of Brazil still did very well, they felt threatened by some level of inequality erosion. I think there's some validity to that. There's always been this resentment that Lula and Dilma were not the kind of people who should be running Brazil, that the people who should be running Brazil are the kinds of people who were educated in the U.S., who came from rich families, who went to the best schools. There's definitely a cultural component to it. But I think that the real story of why the Workers' Party ultimately gave way to Bolsonaro is that, like neoliberalism in so many places around the world, it just failed the interests of huge numbers of people. So by the time Dilma was in her second term, all of the advances, or most of the advances made by Lula, had been lost. People were suffering. Their jobs were disappearing. They saw income inequality growing again. They were the first in line to pay the price for the need to cut budgets rather than seeing taxes on the rich being increased. So that income inequality and wealth inequality in Brazil is greater than in any other democratic country in the entire world. And so they learned to hate the entire political system, which meant...
So... what Glenn Greenwald just did there is explain Brazil's problem in such a way that you can take that and apply it to any system of neoliberal governance on the planet. The exact same thing that is happening with the dissatisfaction and the disenfranchisement of the Brazilian people on no matter what side of the aisle they're on. All they see is a broken, corrupt government that even when they put good people in to that broken and corrupt system, no matter how pure or how or even benign their intentions are, when you put the kind of people that want to run for political office, let alone good people, into a system that is by design sociopathic and corrupt, you are only going to get corrupt and sociopathic legislation written by corrupt and sociopathic actors. And that is exactly what happened in Brazil. That is exactly what's happening here. That's what's been happening here. Now it's coming to a head because more people are struggling. White people are struggling. White people got hooked on fucking opioids, and now the Sackler family settles. And now Purdue Pharmaceuticals is in trouble. But we've come to the point to where there's no reason for regular people to hope for a substantive solution through the political process, or at least on the federal level, the national level. I'm sure Brazil has wonderful local politicians that work very hard to, preserve what little sense of community that impoverished areas have, or areas that have been ravaged by out of control, controlled burns that were only supposed to clear X amount for agriculture and not an additional several hundred, thousand acres because they set fires wrong. I don't know. If there's not a political solution at the national level, there has to be a coordinated effort to realize that your family is a little bit bigger than you might thought and sustain your community. And maybe try to affect what you can politically at the local level, but on the national level, there's not a tenable solution for regular working people. There's not. I'm in awe of the fact that neither Glenn Greenwald or Aaron Mate, even though Glenn does say, well, they're kind of like the Democrats, that there isn't an immediate connection to seeing what has happened in Brazil as a microcosm or fucking morality tale of what the United States is going through. We're almost mirroring it in terms of what happened with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Although in this case, it was Donald Trump's EPA that quit at lower levels abroad, across the board, instead of the quote unquote liberal or Workers' Party president. It was the most obvious thing to me, and I really like I said, I've never done a video for Slow News Day because I watched somebody else do a video and was like, holy shit, I need to, in case you haven't seen this and you watch my channel, please let me draw your attention to it because it's wild. Trying to figure out how to put this. We have seen over and over and over that when we try to take activist figures or quote unquote socialist figures and put them into these positions, that more often than not, the efforts that they make to do the right thing are batted back by not only, of course, the right wing, but members of their own party, who are paid to protect the establishment and preserve the status quo at all costs. And the very first cost is their credibility. And the very second cost is any semblance of shame they may have had before they got elected. We have running for president right now the OG of creating the template for how to be an electable fake progressive, and that's Elizabeth Warren. We have Bernie Sanders, who people love to call socialist and love to call a communist, and fucking he's, so far fucking left that he'd tank the economy just by waking up in the morning. Bernie Sanders is at least internationally, a center of the road politician who wants to tinker around the edges of capitalism marginally in a way that it may make the poorest of the poor not pick up a fucking pitchfork as we sort of ease into climate collapse. You know, there's nobody in the U.S. has a plan for what to do with 30 million coastal climate refugees. Now, it is perfectly debatable for people to have a conversation about how legitimate is climate change as presented to me by people like Al Gore or Rachel Maddow, or for that matter, Tucker Carlson or the Koch Foundation. You know, you can have that, and I will have that conversation with pretty much anyone. I'm saying that we if the science is right, and the science is incomplete because it doesn't incorporate geoengineering, but if the incomplete science is any kind of right, we have a shorter timeline than any of us would like to really, you know, be cognizant of and then have to do something about. Bernie Sanders isn't going to get anyone there. He's not, and I totally expect the viewers to drop like fucking flies right now, but he signed a loyalty oath to the Democratic Party, and he's going to support the eventual pre-selected nominee because he signed a fucking oath to do so. If for some reason he gets through the most openly rigged primary that I have seen, the even more so than 2016, even more rigged than the 2018 election in Broward County, where fucking Tim Canova was robbed in broad daylight to the point where there's videotape of people shoving boxes into the back of an Enterprise rental truck full of ballots with no party fucking observation, witness, state, none of that shit. Individuals getting out of a car by themselves and just hucking ballots into the back of a goddamn truck. This primary is more rigged than that. And if for some reason Bernie Sanders gets through this contested primary or this rigged primary in a contested convention and goes on to run against Donald Trump and beat him despite voter purges, despite interstate crosscheck, despite fucking all conceived, despite the billions of dollars that are going to be levied against him to stop him. If he gets there into that Oval Office, at best, we get marginal tinkering around the edges of capitalism. That is not a tenable political solution. Romplicone has one of the best fucking quotes I've ever heard in my goddamn recent life regarding the American political process. And it's, there is nothing pragmatic about incremental solutions to catastrophic problems. If you look at the American political process, that is the poster child for an incremental solution to a catastrophic problem. I would encourage everyone to stop having political heroes, to stop having political idols. If you want to, elevate someone, if you want to hold a person to that sort of level, like, do that with the concept of extended family or community. I don't think we have time for this shit. See who's here right now. Anthony Reyes, Brooke, Mike, Karen, Quinn. I got maybe 17, 18, 19 people watching, 8 likes. If you're digging the content so far, go ahead and hit the like button. Now's about the part of the show where I need to remind people that I recently launched a Patreon. I have bonus content on that channel. I've got really good interviews. We talk about some really wild shit. There will be more content coming out this week. There is no donation minimum. What all I'm trying to do is increase my internet speed so that I can add video clips and static images when I need to show them, and host the streaming software so that I can do interviews from here as well. After that, I am going to I've got a couple of really kick-ass artists who got some shit going on that I want to put on a shirt or a hat or a sweatshirt or a sticker and send it to you guys for being patrons of the show. It's not anything that I really want to charge money for. It's something that I would rather gift you for supporting the show. So that's about how that goes. MSNBC totally makes room for non-Russiagate content. Brooke, they talk about Elizabeth Warren, they talk about Joe Biden, and then every once in a while they'll tell you that Bernie Sanders makes their skin crawl. And once every 4 years, Chris Hayes gets to mention an illegal war on the air for 2 minutes, and then people get to pat him on the back up over that for the next 4 years and call him brave. Everyone is calling it fascism when it's the opposite of fascism. In classical totalitarianism, politics trump the economy, but inverted totalitarianism states the economy trumps politics. So, yeah, I get that. Like I understand. I think I've had this conversation before. I tend to mostly agree with Lee Camp and the explanation of inverted totalitarianism. My co-host for the Free Assange Vigil, Andrew Smith, is on my most recent Patreon episode, and we had an entire conversation about whether or not the U.S. as it operates most closely resembles what Joseph Stalin at his best and most totalitarian had in mind. I do agree that it seems that the economy is what trumps politics, but in my personal opinion, the people that are driving the economy, the people that are manipulating what is allowed to make money, when it's allowed to make money, and how much of it is allowed to go, back into the community or hoarded. In that sense, if we're going to break it down that far, the people that are manipulating currency flow and manipulating global economy are far more important than politics. I think that bears out every time a pedophile gets arrested. I think we see that pretty quick. They have Donnie Deutsch on us to tell us we can't have shit. Man. And they've got presidential candidates that do that too. I mean, even fucking Liz Warren had that scripted line that I don't understand why you'd run for president to tell people what can't be done. But that's exactly what Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign was. Here's what we can't do. We can't end the wars. We can't have any fucking we can't have a $15 minimum wage, which is pathetic. We can incrementally get to a $12 minimum wage. We can't have single payer. She stood on a stage and screamed single payer will never ever come to pass, and people cheered that shit. Her campaign was about what we can't have, and it was you can't have everything that you used to have or that the rest of the planet has. And you certainly can't have Donald Trump. And it turns out that she was wrong about we can't have Donald Trump, but still kind of right about we can't have things that we used to have or the rest of the world has. We used to have relatively free college. when Hillary Clinton went to Yale, the tuition was like $2,200 a year. Fred Edward, you are here. Elizabeth Warren has this marketable template on how to be a fake progressive. And because of the way that our mainstream corporate bullshit mockingbird media operates, and because we need to be dumbed down and we need our critical thinking stomped on, and we need our ability to question, and especially question authority, stifled or silenced. Because of all that, it's a soundbite country. We operate in 2-minute clips, and Elizabeth Warren has a 2-minute clip for everything that you're in favor of. Elizabeth Warren has grilled and screamed at and wagged her finger and got super rattled, throated. You know, when she talks and she gets really upset, she gets horribly, like, it's fucking, you know how you know she's lying is when she can't say a 1-syllable sentence without making it 4 and sounding like she's ready to cry. But she has, throughout all of her soundbite career, throughout all of those lovely connective interviews that she did, like on the Daily Show or with Stephen Colbert and all that, the gang, she took $1.7 million from the securities and financial industry while they were creating and during the first year of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The board that she touted as being the thing that was going to save the little guy from, you know, giant predatory corporations, they're paying her nearly $2 million in just a couple of years while she's overseeing and ostensibly in helping the enforcement or driving the enforcement policies of this agency. You guys know that she refused to endorse Bernie Sanders and stood up with Hillary Clinton and damn near a matching pantsuit so they could hold hands and fucking prove to the world that girl power is not necessarily a thing that America is ready for at the ballot box. Well, arguably, that's not true. Nobody fucking wanted Hillary Clinton to be president. People were, well, I'm not nobody. She's got, you know, billionaires and millionaires and pedophiles and some other criminals and probably at least 1 or 2 formerly abused ex-spouses of the Secret Service agents that she's had murdered over the years. But anywho, Elizabeth Warren, along with a number of other Democrat female senators, signed this letter of support for Hillary Clinton back in 2015 before Bernie announced, before Hillary announced. They had already signed this letter of I'm with her. Elizabeth Warren takes more money from AIPAC than Mike Pence. Elizabeth Warren takes more money from General Dynamics and Raytheon than a fuck ton of Republicans. Raytheon and General Dynamics just merged, by the way, and their former CEO is now currently the acting Secretary of Defense. That's something a lot of people forget. Oh yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Fred. Hildemort, that's great. The DNC leaks did prove that. I mean, everybody knew she was a shit candidate. Nobody wanted to fucking the fact that you have to make a brand for a politician that in no way, shape, or form actually resembles the person that they are. But you have to market that brand, tells you everything you need to know about A, that person, B, American politics, and fucking C, why we should fucking surround the halls of power and demand our representation instead of participating in their fucking federally rigged process. Is it now called General Death Ray? I don't know, man. I now I want to make a t-shirt of General Death Ray. And it's actually just a cartoon rendering of our Secretary of Defense. Yeah, thank you, WikiLeaks. So, Fred, I don't know if you know or not, but I am the co-host of Weekly Free Assange Vigil with Andrew Smith and Taylor Hudak, who co-founded Action for Assange together, and Christy Dopp, who is Unity for Jay spokeswoman. Tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, and like 2 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Oh no, 9:30 and 6:30. That's right. John Kiriakou will be on for a while to be John Kiriakou and be awesome and talk to us about, you know, like the 3 questions that we're not shy enough to ask, and then we'll let him go. I kid. I kid. I'm pretty comfortable around that dude now. And then comedian Krish Mohan, who I met down in Santa Cruz last year. He was touring with Lee Camp and Eleanor Goldfield. He will be on after at 10. And then we will discuss some what's-its. We should have clips up of our epic 5-hour marathon yesterday, where we had on Gordon Dimmick at very freaking early in the morning, and then we live streamed with permission from John Pilger the Roger Waters performance across the street from the home office, where he played Wish You Were Here, dedicating it to Julian Assange. We streamed Pilger's speech before that. So thank you, by the way, to the people at Rupley and John Pilger. Brooke Hines was on yesterday. She was incredible. Who else? We have Joe Kishore from the World Socialist website was on, and then Graham Elwood closed us out, and Graham was fantastic. So that was yesterday. All of that will be on, or all of that is on the YouTube channel Action #4 Assange. Fred, if you are following Unity for Jay on Twitter at all, if you were following me at Slow News Day Show on Twitter at all, we have all of that posted. I think even Brooke gave us a nice little shout out yesterday. It was a great time. I always enjoy talking to Brooke. There is a great episode on the Patreon. Just from last week, where Brooke and I went into a ton of really cool stuff, and some of it's really dorky inside baseball, and it's good shit. So yeah, there's the Free Assange Vigil series is also on Twitch, Periscope, and Facebook. So if you are, you don't want to contribute to YouTube for that, I totally get it, and we're on other platforms. Inverted totalitarianism will likely survive military defeat and public scorn of its leaders. System isn't dependent on particular persona. No, I mean, yeah. The system will survive his retirement. Would even survive if the DNC were to become the majority party and control both presidents. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Quinn. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, like, if economy trumps politics, then the people who manipulate the economy are like that's who you have to go after if you want to stop that system. You have to take away their ability to thank you, Fred, to work the machinations of anything from pure and simple criminality to Luciferian cult pedophilia. Like, you know, it's a big club. We ain't in it. Yeah, so I just one more time before I bounce for a little bit, because I got somebody that I'm supposed to interview, or I'm supposed to go on somebody's show in like an hour. Can't remember. At any rate, Graham Hellwood has a new clip up about a YouTube union to fight censorship. The guy doing the union is kind of a hoot. He makes weapons like blow darts. Cool. I will have to check that out. Man, when I first started the show, I had Jamarl Thomas on, and that episode got lost and then rediscovered. And anyway, at any rate, we talked about that. We talked about that for a little bit. The YouTube Creators Union, and I mean, I'm interested. I am. I will definitely give that a shot. Super funny German dude. All right. Oh, somebody told me. Okay, I've had a couple people tell me about the Slingshot channel, dude. Okay. Right on. All right, y'all. I may be back. If I am not, then I will see you at some point tomorrow, and then hopefully I will also see you at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on Action, the #4 Assange YouTube channel for Free Assange Vigil #9 with John Kiriakou and Krish Mohan as guests, and my co-hosts for that show are Andrew Smith, Taylor Hudak, and Christy Dopp. If you are able to, please go ahead and check out and support the Patreon, patreon.com/SlowNewsDay. And if not, dude, I totally fucking get it. I support other content creators when I can, and when I can't, I don't feel bad. Yeah, until then, I'm Steve Poikonen. This has been Slow News Day. Good luck to us all.